Shalom and welcome to Inside Israel News, your source for unbiased and thorough analysis of Israeli news, politics, and current events in the Middle East. I'm your host, Isaac Kite. We're just a few days out from the election, so we have exciting stories and headlines about that. But first, some of the international news. Biden administration memo said that the Biden administration is looking for a reset of relations with the Palestinian Authority, and they're looking to reverse Trump-era policies. The Trump-era policies they're talking about include accountability and measures aimed at driving the Palestinians to the negotiating table. So will we see any peace negotiations of any kind of substance without those policies? That's anyone's guess. My guess would be probably not. In any case, the administration is looking to try to sort things out with the Palestinians. Meanwhile, Iran continues its saber rattling. They say that U.S. promises are no good in Tehran, that they're not listening, that they're not paying attention. They've stuck their fingers in their ears and they're humming really loud. They don't really care. And they continue to thumb their nose at the United States and its authority. They clearly see the current administration as being weak and unable to challenge them, and they are looking for whatever advantage they can gain by agitating toward, away from any kind of positive solution and toward some advantage to themselves. And while we in the U.S. don't really see it this way and don't really understand it, the more they thumb their nose at us and the more they agitate without consequences in the culture of the Middle East, the more elan, the more strength they appear to have with their prospective allies and proxies in the Middle East. So the more the administration allows them to continue to make trouble and throw little temper tantrums and throw this little fit, basically the weaker our position becomes throughout the Middle East and the stronger Iran's becomes. That's just an unfortunate reality of the culture that we have here. But unfortunately, the professional diplomatic class of the State Department and the professional, the experts in Washington, D.C., they don't quite seem to see it that way. They don't seem to care if we take a kick in the pants because they look at it from a process standpoint, and they don't really see these little things as having any meaning. But the unfortunate thing is, if Iran gets a big head and their allies feel like Iran is in a stronger position, that could lead to war. Final story from this side of the ocean, the Anti-Defamation League and a number of other organizations published a study recently about what they call increasing instances of hate in the U.S. From the posting of posters with hate speech on them to violent attacks and that kind of thing. And this had some interesting news for the Jewish community. Of course, there were a total recorded of about 5,100, 5,200 incidents. Now, that is the number that generates the headline for them: increasing hate crimes and attacks and this kind of thing. But hold on one second. 5,200 incidents in a country with 320 million people over the course of an entire year. Curiously, only 5% of this hate speech was targeting Jews, was anti-Semitic in nature. So we're talking about 5% of 5,000 incidents in 1 year in 2020. And they can say that the number is on the rise, but the reality is the amount of hate speech and the incidents are relatively minor and are sort of a minimal concern. In the Jewish community, we have had some rising concern in the last few years, however, especially in New York, with African Americans, for whatever reason, attacking Jewish people. And there have been a number of attacks and increasing violence. We're seeing the same thing now in largely left-wing areas like Atlanta and the San Francisco Bay Area, with people attacking Asians, East Asians especially, physically attacking people. So we're getting increases in hate, but it's not very clear whether this is right-wing hate precisely. But we are getting increased instances of hate attacks. Only 5% targeting Jews, increased attacks against Asian Americans, and a good number of these attacks and this hate speech is being perpetuated by one minority against another. So hopefully we'll all kind of get together with the peace and love. We all want to live together in one country. There's no need for violence against anyone. If you have a disagreement, take it to the ballot box, go protest, do things that are peaceful so that you can have your voice heard. But there's no need to harm anyone else. And we've all got to come together and put a stop to that. I just want to say a lot of anti-Semitic propaganda that you get out there will be included as stuff against George Soros. People don't dislike George Soros because he's Jewish. People, and I say Jewish, ethnically Jewish. The man is always against Israel and against all Jewish interests around the world. So I don't know how he gets to be included in the community of, people protected as a minority. But in any case, people who are calling out George Soros for his attacks are not making anti-Semitic conspiracy theories a reality, or not spreading those. They are accurately holding accountable a billionaire who spends a lot of money on politics. So if you're concerned about George Soros and his political activities, you have a right to be. That's not necessarily anti-Semitic. It would become anti-Semitic if somebody tried, say, to tie Soros to conspiracy theories about the Rothschilds or the protocols of Zion or something like that. Then we would get into the realm of hate speech and real anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. But if you're just someone who opposes George Soros's political activities, you're welcome to do that. That's not hate speech. Meanwhile, if you delegitimize Israel and say Israel doesn't have the right to exist and that it's basically okay for people to murder Jews in Israel, then I would have to say that's far more anti-Semitic than people concerned about George Soros or touting conspiracy theories about the Rothschilds or the protocols, because that leads directly to the injury and death of Jewish people. Right. So that's much more dangerous hate speech. In any case, we do get the Rothschild thing, and I think a lot of people misunderstand that these days. A lot of people are just concerned that there are a very small clique of wealthy people who control events around the world, and they feel powerless to implement their own agenda because they don't feel like their votes count and they're not getting any headway through democracy or what have you. Then I can see how people might turn to conspiracy theories. But this is a time to keep our heads about us, keep our wits about us, to think through what we're doing and not be drawn in by some of these, whether it's Jewish lasers or banking conspiracies or things of that nature. Let's all get along. Let's recognize that we're all feeling equally powerless these days against the forces that seem to be at work in the world, and we don't need to go into conspiracy theories to explain that. Also, in general Israeli non-election news, COVID cases are down. Only 1.7% of tests are coming back positive, fewer than 300 new cases this week. Israelis are feeling very comfortable that their vaccine is working and that Israel can start to return to normal from virus restrictions, and we will see how things go from there. In one instance, at a particular school, staff members who had neither a vaccine nor a negative COVID test were not allowed to come to work. So there's still some tricky business about that, but we're slowly coming out of the crisis in Israel, and we'll see how Israeli society slowly starts to return to normal after the election. At least one can hope. We are coming up on the election in Israel. It is Tuesday. By the time Tuesday dawns here in the United States, the election will be over, and as we head into late morning, early afternoon, we should have some results Tuesday, and I'll make a supplement with those early results as soon as we have them to talk about how the numbers are finally coming out. And then, of course, by next week and next week's episode, there should be a final number, a final tally that we'll be able to use that will tell us exactly how many seats each bloc, each faction has, and how the coalition talks will start to come together. We'll have all the details on that then. In the meantime, we have the election coming up. So more election news in just a minute. As we head into the final stretch here before the election, we're getting some of the final platforms and political statements before voters go to vote. Obviously, Bibi is out saying that he is promising direct flights to Saudi Arabia if he's reelected, that he will work to establish normalized relations with Saudi Arabia, just as Israel has normalized with the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Morocco, Sudan, other countries in the Abraham Accords. And he is saying he will be able to accomplish this if he is reelected. So that's sort of his last big political statement before the election. Bibi, of course, is contending for a larger segment of Arab votes as they head into the final stretch. And that's not surprising. A lot of Bedouins, a lot of Druze, a number of Muslim constituents in Israel do vote for Likud, even though they've felt disappointed with Likud's policies toward their community. And Netanyahu has recently promised that he will handle those directly, those issues with greater personal responsibility to make sure that those concerns of those communities are being addressed. Speaking of the concerns of the Arab community, Yair Lapid, the opposition leader and leader of the number 2 Yesh Atid party, polling number 2 in the election, Lapid recently met with Mansour Abbas, the head of the Ra'am, or United Arab List Party, UAL, not to be confused with the Joint List, which is the 3 other Arab parties running together. Mansour Abbas met with Yair Lapid. Yair Lapid was likely trying to encourage Mansour Abbas toward the opposition coalition and keep that possibility open. Mansour Abbas has said that he is open to joining any coalition if his party is invited to do so. So he is not saying he will not join with Bibi Netanyahu. He's not saying he will not join with the opposition. He's keeping his options open, much like Naftali Bennett and the Yaminah party. So he's met with Lapid. He has met with Bibi Netanyahu, and we'll see what happens with Ra'am ultimately. So there are a number of new polls out as we head into the final stretch. These are the sort of the last-minute final polls before Israelis go to vote on Tuesday. And in these polls, I'm gonna talk about some generalities of all of them before I go into some more specific numbers. But they're all kind of in the same ballpark. A few seats this way, a few seats that way. And again, when it comes to Israeli polls, the accuracy comes from the fact that Israelis are not shy about giving their opinion to pollsters. There's not the same kind of shy Tory effect that we get here in the United States or in the UK or other places where some voters are afraid to say that they're going to vote right because they feel like that's an unpopular opinion. But Israelis are more than eager to tell you what they think. If you ask, they will happily give you their opinion on any subject. Sometimes they'll give it without asking. In any case, they will answer the polls pretty accurately. So you look at the polls and again, because this is a proportional system, we're not talking about who's going to win versus losing, like in a direct head-to-head gubernatorial or presidential race here in the United States, where if Party A the candidate A gets 1 vote more than candidate B, candidate A wins and gets to be governor or president, and Party B loses and does not get to be. We're talking about one party earning a certain number of seats in the Knesset, and then another party earning another set of seats until all 120 have been doled out, and then they have to figure out how to bring enough parties together in order to have a majority. So these polls are fairly accurate in the sense that they give us a pretty good idea what ballpark every party is in. So a couple of generalities. Likud is polling at this point between 30 and 32 seats, depending on which poll you look at. That represents a general surge in Likud polling in the last few days. So Bibi himself and his party are gaining popularity. Now, not gaining a lot of ground. It's not surging like, he might get 40 seats or something like this. But again, having polled at, maybe 26, 27 seats early on, and then slowly kind of worked his way up to 28, 29. Now to be polling in the 30 to 32 range shows that Likud is actually rising at the moment. Another trend, Bibi's opponents are declining. Gidon Sa'ar, his party, the New Hope Party, has fallen from, it was polling as high as 21 seats at one point in early polls. There was a lot of excitement about his party. They've fallen down to about 9-10 seats, depending on which poll you look at. So the enthusiasm for him in particular has declined. And that shows that the enthusiasm seems to be heading in the direction of the Likud and Bibi Netanyahu. So those are some of the general trends. Another general trend is that the smaller parties do seem to be crossing the threshold. I've talked about how religious Zionist, Meretz, Blue and White, and Ra'am, also called the United Arab List, have been just teasing at the threshold, which is 3.25%. You have to earn 3.25% of the vote in order to hold seats. They've all been teasing at the threshold. Some polls had Ra'am falling below. Some polls had Ra'am above. At this point, all four parties are polling just above the threshold, and they look like they're going to earn seats in the Knesset. And as I'd said before, I'm not sure that pollsters, especially early on, were getting the Arab community quite right. That's a difficult community to poll. And I think a lot of people in the Arab community have been up in the air thinking about, are they going to vote Likud? Are they going to vote Ra'am? Are they going to vote for the joint list, which is the main Arab party, the three main Arab parties running together. Joint list seems to be coming down from about 9 seats to 8 seats in most polls now, so they seem to be down a seat. So it seems like at the last minute, a number of Arab voters have kind of pulled away from joint list and are leaning over toward Ra'am. If that analysis proves correct, then Ra'am should have enough votes to clear the threshold and earn the seats, 4 seats in the Knesset. Also, part of Likud's surge seems to be Arab voters as well. Bibi has made a great push toward gaining ground among Arab voters who are naturally friendly to Likud, and he's been gaining a little there. So this is the trend here. So it looks like Ra'am is going to earn seats if these polls are accurate. It looks as though Bibi's opponents, in terms of the individual opponents like Gidon Sa'ar, are losing ground, but the opposition coalition continues to have a pretty strong stand. They're polling, depending on which poll you look at, between 55 and 57 seats altogether, and that puts them very close to the 61 seats that constitute a majority of the Knesset. Could they pull together a coalition? Possibly. As I've sort of half joked before, if they did pull together a coalition, it might fly apart faster than a Yugo making a left turn. But the fact is, this is going to be, if there's an opposition coalition, if the opposition wins, this is going to be a coalition of vastly different political parties from the far right, from the far left, with so many different interests, united chiefly by the fact that they want to see Bibi Netanyahu out of office. And once he is gone, they're going to fall apart. There's just no way they can stay together after they've accomplished that goal. What's going to happen after that, we don't know. So that creates a lot of uncertainty. For a lot of Israeli voters, one wonders, well, instead of having that uncertainty now, why not re-elect Bibi Netanyahu for one more term, and then we can have the uncertainty about succession later, when there's a new election down the road in 3 or 4 years. Who knows? We'll see how the voters pull out. Again, Ra'am and Yamina, Mansour Abbas's Ra'am party, and Naftali Bennett and Yamina are both holding out that they will consider joining either side. They're not committing to either coalition at this point. And as a result, that shows Bibi's coalition numbers down at the 47 to 49 range, depending on which poll you believe, putting him far below the majority. But again, those two parties out there are not committing to anyone at this point, and they could bring Bibi a majority. So the media narrative is right now, as always, media narratives, they're out to create ratings and sell papers and so on and so forth. They're not so much about giving you an accurate sense of what's going on like I tried to do. And so their headline is that the election is headed toward deadlock. That polls show there's deadlock in Israel, and who knows how it's going to go, because Yamina and Ra'am have not committed to one side or the other. But they could very well join a coalition with Bibi Netanyahu if they feel that's the best deal for them and for their constituents. So with that media narrative, with these last statements, we're going into the final stretch with the election. So let's take a look at the poll numbers specifically and see where voters seem to be right at this moment before we have any kind of final results from the election. So let's look at some poll numbers right now. Channel 11 poll that was published just yesterday gave Likud Party, Netanyahu's Likud Party, 31 seats, followed by Yesh Atid, which is Yair Lapid's center-left party, with 19 seats. New Hope and Yamina were tied. So New Hope is Gidon Sa'ar's party. Yamina is Naftali Bennett's party. both kind of right-wing parties, New Hope right-wing, but against Bibi Netanyahu. They are tied for third largest party with 9 seats apiece. The joint list has 8 in this poll. It's the 3 main Arab parties together. The Sephardic ultra-Orthodox Shas party has 8, while the Ashkenazic ultra-Orthodox party, United Torah Judaism, has 7, and Yisrael Beitenu also has 7. That's the secular nationalist right party. Labor and the Religious Zionist Party receive 5 seats each in this poll, while Blue and White, Meretz, and Ra'am all cross the electoral threshold with 4 seats each. So according to this, the anti-Netanyahu bloc, if we include the joint list, the Arab votes, would have 56 seats. That's a little bit dubious at this point. I'm not really certain that the joint list is going to join an anti-Netanyahu coalition, but that's kind of how the media is reporting things right now. So let's sort of roll with that. So that says 56 seats. Of course, if you take joint list's 8 seats out of that, well, that drops them down to 48. Which puts them below the pro-Netanyahu bloc. And pro-Netanyahu bloc is at 51 seats. Now, if Yamina has 9 seats, then Yamina, if it joined with the anti-Netanyahu bloc, including joint list, including those 3 Arab parties, again, not likely to happen, then Yamina could give the Anti-Bibi coalition a majority, theoretically. However, because they have 9 seats in this poll, if they were to join the pro-Netanyahu bloc, they would have 60 seats even, which is exactly half the Knesset and 1 short of what is needed in order to form a coalition. But again, Ra'am has 4 seats in this poll, and if Ra'am, UAL, were to join the coalition and Mansour Abbas become a cabinet minister, then there would be a good chance that, obviously that would provide them 64 seats, and that would be a good coalition for Bibi Netanyahu. It would give him the majority. So if, however, Yamina and Ra'am together were to join the anti-Netanyahu coalition, they could likewise give them a majority without the Arab joint list joining the coalition. So this is sort of where the parties stand at this point in that poll, and that was a pretty fair poll, I thought, out of several that have been published. Now, the Direct Polls, which is a polling organization that exactly predicted the last election's results back in May, the election that took place back in 2020. That polling agency is giving Likud 32. They're giving Naftali Bennett's Yamina 8, New Hope 7, Yesh Atid, Yair Lapid's party 17, the Joint List 7. That's the 3 Arab parties. Labor 4, while giving Shas 9, the Sephardic ultra-Orthodox party. Yisrael Beitenu also 9. Blue and White 7, which is kind of a high for Benny Gantz in that particular poll. With United Torah Judaism, the Ashkenazic Orthodox party with 7, Religious Zionists with 5, and Meretz and Ram with 4 each. So that puts Likud at a high of 32 in terms of the polls that are out there. The pro-Netanyahu bloc would have 53 seats, and the anti-Netanyahu bloc, again, including the joint list, which, again, not too sure that's a good idea, but it gives them 55 seats. If we take the joint list out of that number, we're back down to 48 for them. Now, the interesting thing, while this poll gave Yamina the least seats, down at 8, if Netanyahu had 53 seats in his natural coalition, then Bennett could join, offering the coalition exactly 61 seats, just the number that they need in order to form a coalition and create a government. So that poll puts let's say it puts Netanyahu in the position where if he and Bennett work together, they could form a coalition, if that poll is accurate. Looking at the anti-Bibi bloc, we're going to call it 48 because, again, I'm not going to include joint list in that number. In that situation, if Bennett were to join with them, that would give them a total then of 56 seats. And even if Ra'am joined that coalition, they wouldn't have enough seats to form a majority without the help of the Arab joint list. And again, that's not that likely to happen. So depending on how you look at these polls, you're going to see I guess you can kind of see whatever you want to see in there if you want to look at it this way or that. But the fact is, Bibi is surging. He's gaining support. There are a couple of different paths he has to form a government that are open to him, and there's a good chance that that could happen. So there's this media narrative that, we're headed for another deadlock. Not necessarily. Kind of hold your horses, take a deep breath, cool off a little, and recognize that Bibi has a path to victory here. In all of these polls, whether it's with just Yamina, as in the direct poll, or in, say, Channel 11's poll that I cited earlier, it would take both Yamina and Ra'am. But there are parties willing to work with Bibi that could form that government. Likewise, there are, again, if Yamina and Ra'am were willing to join, there's the possibility of forming together an anti-Netanyahu coalition with those parties. In at least one poll. In another, they'd be right at 60, and thus fall one short of that that needed number of seats. So this is where we're at. We're stuck between Bibi Netanyahu and his opponents in this regard. But again, when you take joint list out of the numbers for these polls, you see that the pro-Bibi coalition, that the pro-Bibi parties do actually have the advantage at this point. Adding the joint list to that number is really dubious. The likelihood that they're willing to sit in a coalition with, of all things, Yisrael Beitenu and with parties like Gidon Sa'ar's New Hope, I mean, it's difficult to imagine. It really is. So... and that those right-wing parties would be willing to sit in a coalition with the parties in the joint list. Again, not all that likely to happen. Now, they could kind of throw a monkey wrench into things by recommending an opposition candidate to Bibi and maybe giving the opposition the first go at forming a coalition. But again, what would be served in this? Not really clear at this point. So in all likelihood, there's a really good chance Bibi is going to pull this out. Bibi is a shrewd political operator. He is an opportunist extraordinaire. And I say that both, I want to say affectionately and honestly, from the point of view of the generally, I want to say reluctantly pro-Bibi position that I hold, but also the fact is Bibi is a really smart politician. So looking at these final election results, of course, depending on how the numbers all come out, he's going to be on the phone with Naftali Bennett right away saying, hey, what do you want to join my coalition? Let's form a government. And if he needs it, he may then get on the phone right afterwards with Mansour Abbas and say, hey, we'll give you guys, the Arab community, whatever you want in order for you to join the coalition. And Bibi's going to find a way back into office. It is a funny commentary, I'll close with this, that the Israeli street for a while has had this rumor, this belief that because of how he handled the vaccine situation and the virus crisis, that Bibi was going to be reelected. So there's been an attitude out there that Bibi's in really good shape, that even though the polls don't look good and things don't look like Bibi has much a chance of winning, that in fact he's going to end up pulling it out in the end and managing to win. He'll pull off an election win kind of out of the jaws of defeat, if you will. And now with the polls, we're starting to see how that attitude on the street sort of, I want to say, it may have seemed unrealistic at the time, because as I've been telling you this for the past month or so, since that attitude has arisen, the polls don't really reflect it yet. Now the polls are beginning to reflect that attitude. A lot of people are kind of giving in to despair, if you will, if you're an opponent of Bibi, or acknowledging what the reality, if you're sort of on the pro or reluctantly pro-Bibi side, that Bibi is probably going to be able to pull off a win. And so that shows you how that attitude sort of at the last minute is coming to fruition. The polls show that the onus, the momentum is shifting over to Bibi and Bibi's allies and potential allies in Yamina and Ra'am. And it is moving away from Gidon Sa'ar and his New Hope party and away from he's sort of the Wunderkind of the opponents of Bibi who want to unseat him. And we're hoping that a former colleague of his and a far-right a known right-wing prime minister candidate would be someone who could unseat Bibi, unlike Benny Gantz, who portrayed himself more as a moderate. And we'll see. In at least one of those polls, direct poll, showed Benny Gantz surging a little bit, coming back from the threshold and gaining a few more seats against left-wing parties like Labour and so on. Could that happen? We'll see. Benny Gantz may not even clear the threshold and may fall below. So we'll see how that plays out. But Benny Gantz is definitely not the main candidate against Bibi Netanyahu at the moment. And to see New Hope collapsing shows you that confidence in the opposition or any particular opposition candidate is down. Also, Yesh Atid high in the second place position shows that on the center left, at least, there is more confidence in Yair Lapid's populist center left agenda than there is in any other single party. Well, visit the website at insideisrael.news. Offer feedback. Find me on Facebook and like the Facebook page, and you can offer feedback there too. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts, opinions, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear more of, what you want to hear less of. With that, I will say goodbye, להתראות.
אולי נפליגה בספינות מחוף אילת עד חוף שהם, ועל המשחטות הישנות יטעינו תפוחי זהב. כל זה אינו משל ולא חלום, זה